She offered him a warm meal on a freezing night, never imagining that the man she helped would one day hold the key to her future and her heart. Welcome back, my wonderful family and friends. If you're tuned in and ready to dive into today's story, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from. Tomorrow, I'll be bringing you another exciting story you definitely don't want to miss. So, let's get started. Joanna Hayes zipped up her coat against the biting winter wind, her heels clicking on the wet pavement as she made her way home from another exhausting day at the design firm. The streets were alive with the usual city symphony. Honking cars, distant chatter, and the occasional laughter bouncing off the buildings. Yet, in all the noise, a faint, desperate sound pulled at her attention. A soft whimper coming from a narrow alley. Curiosity won over fatigue. She cautiously stepped into the alley, eyes adjusting to the dim light. There, shivering against a graffiti-covered wall, was a man wrapped in tattered blankets. His face was pale, lips cracked from the cold, and his eyes, a piercing gray, held a mix of vulnerability and wariness. "Are you okay?" Joanna asked, kneeling down beside him. Her voice was gentle, careful not to startle him. The man flinched, as though he had been bracing for anger or scorn. Instead, he found concern. I'm fine," he said hoarsely, his voice rough from the cold. Joanna shook her head. "No, you're not. You're freezing. Here, take this." She removed her scarf and draped it over his shoulders, then dug into her tote bag and handed him the sandwich and bottled water she had brought for herself. "Eat. It'll help." He hesitated, staring at the food like it was something foreign, almost unbelievable. Then slowly he accepted it. "Thank you, Joanna," he murmured, almost reverently. "Joanna," she said again, offering a small smile. "And you are?" "Michael," he replied, his voice quiet, guarded. There was something in Michael's eyes that made Joanna pause, a depth that hinted at a story far more complex than the one before her. She didn't know it yet, but this man would unknowingly begin to change her life forever. A sudden crash startled them. A group of teenagers ran past the alley, knocking over a trash can and laughing cruelly. Michael flinched, instinctively curling into himself. Without thinking, Joanna stepped protectively in front of him. "Hey, leave him alone," she shouted. The boys barely glanced at her before disappearing into the night, their laughter echoing. "You didn't have to do that," Michael said, his voice almost a whisper, vulnerability evident in his tone. Joanna shrugged, brushing the wet hair from her face. "I couldn't just walk away. No one deserves that." For a while, silence settled between them, broken only by the distant hum of the city. Joanna shared small anecdotes from her day, trying to coax a smile from him. Michael responded cautiously, revealing just hints of a complicated life, but always carefully, never giving too much away. Still, an unexpected spark of connection began to form. Hours seemed to slip by unnoticed. Eventually, Joanna checked her watch. She had lingered far longer than she intended. "I should go," she said reluctantly. "I'll come back tomorrow. Bring something warm. Okay?" Michael nodded, his gray eyes softening in gratitude. "Thanks, Joanna." Walking away, Joanna felt lighter, as if a weight had lifted from her chest. She had done something good, something real, despite the exhaustion of the day. But Michael's mind was far from calm. He watched her retreat, hiding a secret behind his weary, lined eyes. He wasn't homeless. Far from it. He was Michael Aldridge, heir to a business empire, a man with wealth beyond imagination. And yet, the world only saw the tattered coat and gaunt face of a man in need. Michael's lips curved into a faint, secretive smile. He knew this encounter was no accident. Joanna had stirred something in him he had long forgotten. The possibility of genuine human connection, untainted by wealth or status. And now he had to decide when, how, and if he would reveal the truth. For now, he would remain the stranger she thought she understood. Cliffhanger. Joanna doesn't know it yet, but this one act of kindness will change her life forever. When Michael's true identity is revealed, she'll be forced to confront a world of wealth, secrets, and choices she never imagined. Have you ever helped someone without knowing their story? Could one simple act of kindness change your life forever? Comment below and subscribe to Philia Heart for more billionaire love stories that will leave you breathless. The next morning, Joanna woke with a lingering sense of anticipation. The memory of Michael's gray eyes haunted her, and she couldn't shake the feeling that their encounter had significance far beyond the alley. She wondered if he was thinking of her, if he even remembered her name, or if she was just a fleeting moment in his life. Her workday at the design firm was a blur. Sketches, client calls, and urgent emails filled her hours, but her mind drifted repeatedly back to Michael. She thought of the way he had stared at the sandwich, as though it were a lifeline, the subtle tremor in his hands, and the brief, almost imperceptible smile he had given her. Something about him felt different, human, real. That evening, as she walked home through the familiar streets, she noticed a commotion in front of a small boutique near her apartment. A crowd had gathered, whispering and pointing. Curiosity compelled her closer, and to her shock, she saw Michael, standing confidently in front of a sleek black limousine, dressed impeccably in a tailored suit. The tattered blankets and weary face of the man from the alley were gone, replaced by an aura of wealth and authority. Joanna froze. Was it the same man? She blinked, unsure if she was imagining things. Michael noticed her from across the crowd and waved subtly, a knowing glint in his eyes. But before she could approach, a sharp voice cut through the air. "Michael, are you ready for the press?" A young assistant hurried up to him, handing over documents and whispering instructions. Joanna's heart raced. This was no ordinary man. This was someone powerful, someone she could never have expected. And yet, seeing him like this stirred a strange combination of awe and confusion in her chest. For the next few days, their paths began to cross in unexpected ways. Michael seemed to appear in places she least expected. Outside her apartment building, walking past the cafe where she sometimes grabbed a quick coffee, even at her favorite park bench. Each encounter was brief, but the weight of unspoken questions and curiosity hung in the air. One evening, Joanna found herself walking home late, carrying groceries. Suddenly, her bag tore, sending cans and jars clattering across the sidewalk. Michael appeared as if from nowhere, kneeling beside her to help. The contrast was jarring. The man who had seemed vulnerable and in need in the alley was now a figure of composure, elegance, and quiet power. "You're everywhere," she said, both amused and bewildered. "I like to be where things are interesting," he replied lightly, but his eyes lingered on her, warm and searching. There was a subtle intensity in his gaze that hinted at layers she didn't yet understand. In that moment, Joanna realized her life was shifting in ways she couldn't control. The simple act of helping a man in need had unearthed a world she never imagined. A world of luxury, secrets, and possibilities she wasn't sure she was ready for. But Michael had a secret, and the moment of revelation was closer than either of them anticipated. One wrong glance, one curious friend, one slip of the tongue, and everything could unravel. Joanna begins to see glimpses of the man Michael truly is, but she doesn't yet know the full extent of his wealth, or how it will intertwine with her life. Will she accept the mystery, or will the truth shock her completely? Have you ever discovered someone's true identity and been completely shocked? Imagine kindness turning into a life-changing secret. Comment below your thoughts, and don't forget to subscribe to Philia Heart for more billionaire love stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Joanna tried to push the encounters from her mind. She told herself repeatedly that Michael's appearance in her life was nothing more than coincidence. After all, what did a struggling designer like her have in common with a man who seemed to command luxury with a mere gesture? Yet, the universe seemed determined to challenge that notion. A chance meeting at a boutique, another in a quiet bookstore, even once in the crowded subway, kept their worlds colliding. Each time, Joanna felt a magnetic pull she couldn't explain, but doubts gnawed at her. The first day she saw him in the suit, standing in front of the limousine, a mix of admiration and unease filled her. Was he showing off? Testing her? Or was there something she didn't understand yet? The contrast between the man she had helped, hungry, vulnerable, hesitant, and the billionaire he now appeared to be left her reeling. Michael, for his part, struggled in his own way. He had never encountered someone who treated him without the weight of his wealth hanging over their interactions. Joanna's kindness in the alley had been genuine. She hadn't even known who he was. He felt a rare vulnerability whenever he was around her, a feeling he had spent years avoiding, and yet he resisted. Michael had carefully built a world in which everyone valued him for his influence, his money, his name. Joanna's world, honest, simple and unpretentious, was an anomaly. He worried that revealing too much too soon would push her away, that maybe, deep down, she wouldn't accept him if she knew the full truth. One evening, as they coincidentally walked toward the same park entrance, Joanna's voice broke the tense silence. "Why do you keep showing up?" she asked, half frustrated, half curious. Michael hesitated, his hands in his pockets, eyes searching hers. "Maybe because I like seeing you," he admitted, carefully measured. "But it's complicated. My life isn't what it seems." Joanna frowned, frustration mixing with intrigue. "Complicated? You mean rich and untouchable? Because that's obvious. Or is there more?" Michael looked away, a shadow passing over his face. "There's more. I can't explain it yet. Not everything is simple, Joanna." Her heart sank. The honesty in his words drew her closer, yet the mystery kept her at a distance. She wanted to trust him, but the stakes, the unspoken secrets, and the disparities between their worlds made her hesitate. Days passed, and the tension between desire and caution thickened. Joanna began to notice subtle signs of Michael's dual life. The expensive car parked discreetly, a briefcase that carried more than papers, the faint perfume of wealth. Each revelation intrigued her and frightened her in equal measure. Meanwhile, Michael wrestled with the same conflict. He wanted to be honest with Joanna, to show her his world, yet feared that the truth could destroy the fragile connection forming between them. Every moment they shared was electric, yet each word unsaid was a weight he carried silently. Both Joanna and Michael feel the pull toward each other, but unspoken fears and the divide between their worlds threaten to keep them apart. Can they cross the invisible line, or will the secrets remain barriers to their connection? Have you ever felt a connection that scares you because the truth seems too big to handle? Comment your experience below and subscribe to Philia Heart to follow Joanna and Michael's billionaire love journey. You won't want to miss what happens next. The unexpected storm that hit the city that Friday evening became the catalyst neither Joanna nor Michael had anticipated. Rain pelted down in sheets, turning streets into glistening mirrors of neon lights. Umbrellas bent under the wind, taxis refused to stop, and pedestrians scrambled for cover. Joanna, caught unprepared with only a thin jacket, dashed into the nearest shelter she could find. A small community center serving as a temporary haven from the rain. To her astonishment, Michael was already there. He had arrived moments earlier, offering assistance to elderly patrons and children stranded by the sudden weather. Their eyes met across the crowded room, a mix of surprise, irritation, and something unspoken passing between them. "Of all the shelters in the city," Joanna muttered under her breath, shaking the wet from her hair. "Seems we have the same taste in safe havens," Michael said, half smiling, hands slightly damp from helping others. They were forced into close proximity as space was limited. Chairs were scarce, and the center had organized people into small groups around blankets and donated food. Joanna found herself next to Michael, sharing a small corner, an accidental intimacy neither had planned. As the storm raged outside, the vulnerability of the people around them created an oddly tender atmosphere. Joanna noticed Michael's subtle attentiveness. How he ensured everyone had a blanket, how he quietly reassured a crying child, how he seemed genuinely invested in each person's well-being. It was the same kindness she had seen in him the night she first helped him, but amplified, unmasked. Michael, in turn, watched Joanna closely. Despite the discomfort of the crowded space, the damp, and the chaos, she moved with grace, offering warmth to strangers and maintaining her composure. He realized that her kindness wasn't just an occasional act. It was who she was, naturally, effortlessly. Hours passed, and the storm showed no signs of easing. The two found themselves sharing small talk to distract from the confined space. Favorite books, childhood memories, and mundane complaints about the city's unpredictability. Each laugh and shared story chipped away at the walls they had both been erecting. Then, a power outage plunged the shelter into dim candlelight. Shadows flickered across the walls, and the room fell into a hushed silence. Joanna felt a shiver. Not from the cold, but from the sudden closeness of Michael and the intimacy of the moment. She could smell his cologne, faint but unmistakable, and sense the subtle tension in the air. Michael's voice broke the quiet. "I wish circumstances weren't like this," he said softly. "But maybe there's a reason we keep running into each other." Joanna's heart skipped. She wanted to respond, to ask him to explain everything, to bridge the distance, but words failed her. She merely nodded, letting the silence say what neither dared to voice. The storm traps Joanna and Michael together, forcing a vulnerable proximity. Sparks ignite, but the truth of Michael's identity and their emotional stakes remain unspoken. Will the tension break into confession, or will fear keep them apart? Have you ever been forced into a situation that made your heart race with someone unexpected? Comment your story below and make sure to subscribe to Philia Heart. Joanna and Michael's journey is only getting more intense. The storm had finally eased by the next morning, leaving the streets glistening under the soft sunlight. Joanna left the shelter with her umbrella, though the rain had stopped. Her mind, however, remained trapped in the memory of the night before. The closeness, the shared laughter, and Michael's inscrutable gaze. Something about him was pulling her in, though she had no idea who he really was. Meanwhile, Michael returned to his world. A world hidden behind walls of glass, luxury, and secrets. He stepped into his penthouse, every surface immaculate, every light carefully positioned. But even among opulence, he felt the void that Joanna's presence had stirred. The day's unexpected twist came when Joanna stumbled upon a small newspaper article while visiting a local library. Tech mogul Michael Grant's charitable foundation donates millions to shelter programs. She froze, her fingers gripping the page. The face in the photo, the one offering blankets, shaking hands with volunteers, was Michael. The same Michael she had helped, the same Michael trapped with her during the storm. Her heart pounded. Could it be the same man? Was the kind stranger she had helped actually a billionaire? She reread the article, disbelief mixing with awe. How could someone so wealthy move unnoticed, blend so seamlessly with the ordinary world, and yet care so deeply? At the same time, Michael's own backstory began to unravel. Not to Joanna yet, but in his mind, in stolen moments of reflection. He wasn't just a businessman. He had once been a boy who grew up in foster care, learning to survive by helping others when the world offered nothing in return. His wealth had come late, but his compassion had been forged early. Every act of kindness he now performed, small or grand, was an echo of that upbringing, a promise to never forget the struggles he once faced. Joanna couldn't shake the image of him, the duality of his life, and the inexplicable pull she felt toward someone so mysterious. Meanwhile, Michael, unaware that Joanna had discovered the truth, wondered how much longer he could keep his double life hidden. Every encounter, every smile, was a dance along a knife's edge. One wrong move, and his world, carefully curated and protected, could crumble. Joanna now knows Michael's secret identity, but how will she confront it? Will she feel betrayed? Or will this revelation deepen her feelings for him? And Michael, unaware that she's discovered his truth, must decide whether to reveal his world or continue hiding. What would you do if someone you trusted turned out to be living a secret life? Comment below and share your thoughts. Don't forget to subscribe to Philia Heart. Joanna and Michael's story is just getting more intense. The following week, Joanna found herself visiting the shelter more often, each time hoping to see Michael. It was subtle at first. Small gestures like handing out coats, organizing donated items, or sharing a laugh with the volunteers. But each encounter with Michael now carried an unspoken weight. She couldn't stop thinking about him, about the duality of the man she had helped and the billionaire he truly was. Michael noticed too. He had spent years guarding his heart, wary of people who sought him for his wealth. But Joanna was different. She didn't care about the mansion, the luxury cars, or the media headlines. She cared about the person standing in front of her, the one sharing a simple smile or comforting a frightened child. One afternoon, as the shelter buzzed with activity, a sudden downpour forced them to take refuge inside a small storeroom. The cramped space, filled with stacked blankets and canned goods, became their own little world. Michael looked at Joanna, searching her eyes for hesitation, for judgment, but found none. "Joanna," he began, his voice softer than she expected. "I've never met someone who sees me, all of me. Not the image, not the wealth, not the press, just me." Her breath caught. "You don't have to explain anything, Michael. I like who you are, and nothing else matters." For the first time, Michael allowed himself to be vulnerable. He told her about his childhood, the foster homes, the nights he went hungry, and how he had built his empire not for power, but to make a difference. Joanna shared her own struggles, the heartbreak, the moments she felt invisible in a world moving too fast. Their confessions wove a fragile bond, a thread of trust that felt stronger than either had expected. Time seemed suspended as they laughed, cried, and simply existed together. Each glance, each touch, was a testament to the possibility of healing, to the idea that love could grow even in the unlikeliest places. Outside, the rain had stopped, and sunlight filtered through the shelter's windows, painting golden streaks across the room. Yet, a subtle tension lingered. Michael's secret life as a billionaire was still hidden from the world, and Joanna's discovery of it loomed like a shadow. Could this fragile bond withstand the inevitable revelations waiting on the horizon? Their hearts are closer than ever, but the truth about Michael's life could either cement their love or shatter it completely. Will their emotional connection survive when the world intrudes? Have you ever felt an instant connection with someone who completely surprised you? Share your story in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe to Philia Heart. Joanna and Michael's journey is about to get even more intense. Joanna's days had begun revolving around the shelter, but she couldn't ignore the curiosity gnawing at her about Michael. There were small hints, luxurious items misplaced in the shelter, a sudden phone call from someone addressing him with undue respect, but she pushed them aside. She wanted to trust him, believed in the man who had quietly become her anchor. One evening, the fragile peace shattered. Joanna had come to deliver supplies when a group of journalists arrived unannounced. Flashing cameras and microphones caught Michael in his usual volunteer work. The moment his face appeared on the screens outside, Joanna realized the truth. He was not just a benefactor. He was Michael Radcliffe, a billionaire whose empire made headlines worldwide. Shock froze her in place. The man she had connected with, laughed with, confided in, and slowly started to love, had built a world far beyond her imagination. Anger, betrayal, and confusion mixed with the remnants of the trust she felt. How could he hide this from her? Why hadn't he trusted her enough to be honest from the beginning? Michael tried to explain, but words failed to bridge the chasm that had suddenly opened between them. "Joanna, I wanted to protect you. From the spotlight, from the tabloids, from the weight of my world," he said, desperation in his voice. But the revelation only pushed her further away. "I don't even know who you are," Joanna whispered, tears brimming. Was anything real, or was it all a lie? Michael's shoulders slumped. For the first time, he faced the consequences of his secrecy. He had built walls around his life to shield himself, but in doing so, he had almost destroyed the one bond that mattered most. As the journalists outside clamored for an interview, Joanna turned and left the shelter, leaving Michael behind. Her heart ached, but her pride and sense of betrayal overpowered the love she felt. He called after her, but she didn't stop. The golden glow of sunset seemed suddenly cruel, highlighting the distance between them. A love that had promised hope now teetered on the edge of collapse. Joanna walks away with her heart shattered, unsure if she can ever forgive the man she trusted. Michael faces the hardest choice of his life. Fight for her trust or let her go forever. Have you ever been blindsided by a truth that changed everything? Comment your thoughts below. Subscribe to Philia Heart because Joanna and Michael's journey is far from over. Love and secrets collide next. Joanna sat on a park bench, the autumn wind tugging at her scarf, carrying with it the remnants of anger and heartbreak. Every moment with Michael replayed in her mind. His laughter, the quiet support, the moments of unexpected tenderness. But the truth of his secret had left a bitter aftertaste. Could she ever trust him again? Could love survive such a deception? Meanwhile, Michael returned to his penthouse apartment, stripped of the confident composure that the world adored. His empire sprawled beneath him like a kingdom, but for the first time, wealth felt meaningless. The only thing that mattered, the woman who had opened his heart, was slipping away. He realized that hiding behind money and status had cost him the one person who had seen him as more than just a billionaire. For days, neither could move past the fracture. Joanna immersed herself in her charity work, pouring herself into helping others as a distraction. But her thoughts kept returning to Michael. His image haunted her. The gentle way he listened, the sincerity in his eyes, and the quiet vulnerability she had glimpsed. Could she forgive him for protecting her in a way that had felt like betrayal? Michael, too, wrestled with his choice. Pride told him to let her go, to respect her anger and pride. But love demanded action. He sent her a simple, unassuming letter, no fanfare, no excuses, just words from his heart. Joanna, I've made mistakes, but my feelings for you are real. I hid my world not to deceive you, but to protect you from its weight. I am willing to wait as long as you need. I hope you can find it in your heart to see me again. Not the billionaire, but the man who loves you. The next morning, Joanna found herself standing outside the shelter, holding the letter, torn between walking away and returning to him. Every fiber of her being screamed for caution, yet every heartbeat pulled her toward forgiveness and understanding. She finally made her decision, stepping into the familiar place where Michael waited, unsure of whether he would even be there. As their eyes met, the silence spoke volumes. For the first time, both acknowledged the risk. Love required vulnerability, and vulnerability required courage. Joanna must choose, walk away and protect herself, or take a leap of faith and risk everything for love. Michael's fate now rests in her hands. What would you do if someone you loved hid a life-changing secret? Comment below your choice. Don't forget to subscribe to Philia Heart to see how Joanna and Michael's story unfolds in the dramatic finale. The sun dipped low over the city skyline, painting the streets in shades of gold and amber. Joanna approached the small courtyard where Michael waited. Her heart pounded in her chest, not from fear, but from hope. The past weeks of hurt, confusion, and uncertainty had led her to this exact moment. She realized that love, like kindness, often demanded risk. Michael stood there, sleeves rolled up, casual yet perfectly himself, the same man she had met amidst the chaos of the streets. His eyes lit up when he saw her, a mixture of anticipation and vulnerability she had never seen before. He had stripped away all the grand gestures, all the trappings of wealth, showing her the man behind the fortune. Joanna paused, took a deep breath, and finally stepped forward. Every memory of their shared moments, the laughter, the small acts of care, the unspoken understanding, washed over her. She smiled softly, allowing the walls she had built to crumble. I'm willing to try, she whispered, her voice trembling with emotion. Not because of what you have, but because of who you are. Michael's lips curved into a relieved smile. That's all I've ever wanted, Joanna. You've already given me more than any fortune could. He reached for her hand, holding it gently. The touch was simple, yet it carried a lifetime of unspoken promises. Love, honesty, and partnership. In that moment, the city around them faded. The only world that mattered was theirs. Over the following weeks, their lives intertwined in harmony. Michael introduced Joanna to his world, not as a show of wealth, but as a partner in his life and heart. Joanna's charity work flourished, supported quietly and respectfully by Michael, while their personal connection deepened through trust, laughter, and shared dreams. The secret that once divided them became a bridge. They learned that love thrives not on perfection or transparency from the start, but on the courage to embrace the truth when it's revealed. One evening, as they sat watching the sunset from the balcony of Michael's penthouse, Joanna leaned on his shoulder. "Who would have thought that helping a stranger would lead me to you?" she murmured. Michael kissed her forehead gently. "Kindness doesn't go unnoticed, and love finds you when you least expect it." If you believe in unexpected love and second chances, comment Joanna and Michael below. Don't forget to subscribe to Philia Heart for more billionaire love stories that will tug at your heart. Thank you so much for watching my story all the way to the end. Your support means everything. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and drop a comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts.